In 2009, American geologist Adrian Helmsley comes to India to visit his friend, astrophysicist Sanam, who is conducting research in a copper mine 3.5 kilometers deep and discovers that the neutrino flux caused by an unprecedented solar flare warms up the Earth's core. And the temperature is rising very quickly. Adrian informs Karl Althusser, the head of the presidential administration, and US President Thomas Wilson himself, that this warming up will cause a chain of events that will inevitably lead to a global cataclysm. At the G8 summit in 2010, the US president, in the absence of outsiders, informs the leaders of other states about the upcoming catastrophe. They decide to start a secret project to ensure the preservation of the human race. They will be placed on giant ships specially built in the mountains of China, called arks. To finance the project, it was allowed to sell tickets to rich people at a price of €1 billion per person. In 2011, the selection of works of art that will survive the disaster begins. Among them is a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa. When it is sent, it is replaced with an identical copy. In 2012, a science fiction writer from Los Angeles, Jackson Curtis, moonlighting as a limo driver for Russian billionaire Yuri Karpov, takes his children for a weekend with his ex-wife Kate and goes with them to Yellowstone National Park. Kate and her children live with her current boyfriend, Gordon Silberman, a plastic surgeon and amateur pilot. During the trip, Curtis and his children encounter a U.S. Army unit. Then they meet conspiracy theorist Charlie Frost. Frost travels in a van and hosts his own radio show right from Yellowstone Park, dedicated to the coming end of the world, which, according to Mayan predictions, should happen at the end of 2012. Frost informs Curtis that he has a map on which a secret ark construction site is marked. The next day, Curtis and the children return home, but at this time, earthquakes and fractures of the Earth's surface begin all over California. Curtis realizes that Frost was right and rents a small private jet. He picks up his ex-wife, children and Gordon, and thanks to the pilot's skills, Gordon manages to take off on a plane from a collapsing runway. Maneuvering between collapsing overpasses, skyscrapers, explosions and subway trains flying out of tunnels, they watch Los Angeles sink into the Pacific Ocean. While devastating earthquakes are being reported all over the Earth, the group flies to Yellowstone Park to pick up the map from Frost. A giant volcano erupts in the park. As a result of the eruption, Frost is killed by a huge volcanic bomb hitting the mountain on which he was standing. Curtis manages to find the map in Frost's van and fly away with the group. After discovering that the place where the arks were built is China, the group lands in destroyed Las Vegas to find a plane capable of flying across the Pacific Ocean and reaching China. There they meet Yuri Karpov with his sons, beloved Tamara and personal pilot Sasha. Sasha finds an Antonov 500 cargo plane ready for takeoff, but a co-pilot is needed for takeoff. Gordon is forced to become one, and the group flies away with the Karpovs, escaping from the onset of the ashes in time. Also from Washington to the Arks goes Flight Number 1, on which there are Adrian, Althusser and President Wilson's daughter Laura. The president himself refuses to leave Washington. Having reported in his last speech the truth about the disaster that has begun, he dies along with everyone under the wreckage of the aircraft carrier J.F. Kennedy, thrown by the impact of a giant tsunami on the White House. Since the Vice President of the United States was also killed, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives went missing, Althusser declares himself the head of the government. While Curtis and his family and the Karpovs are flying to the Arks, it turns out that the Prime Minister of Italy also stayed at home. He is also dying along with his family due to the collapse of St. Peter's Cathedral caused by the earthquake in the Vatican. After underwater earthquakes, giant tsunamis arise, which soon cover all continents. At this time, the group is flying to refuel on the Hawaiian Islands, but the entire archipelago is on fire due to volcanic eruptions, so the pilots decide to land in the South China Sea. But as a result of tectonic shifts of the Earth's crust and a change in the position of the poles, the plane's journey to China turns out to be much shorter than the group expected. Due to engine failure, the landing ends with an airplane crash, in which the pilot Sasha dies. The rest of the participants escape by jumping out of the plane on the move in a voice-controlled Bentley car. The group is found by helicopters of the People's Liberation Army of China, transporting animals to the Arks, but it turns out that only Karpov and his 2 sons have tickets to the Ark, which the helicopters take away. Those who remain on the road are picked up by the Buddhist monk Nyama, who is taking his grandparents to the Ark. The group gets to the Arks and gets inside one of them through the hydraulic system of closing the gates of the Ark, with the help of a brother monk who worked on the construction of the Arks. One of the 4 finished arcs is damaged as a result of an earthquake, and loading takes place only on 3 ships. Meanwhile, astrophysicist Sanam is killed along with his family in India by a tsunami, having managed to call Adrian before that and inform him that the plane did not arrive for them. It turns out that this tsunami is much closer to the arcs than expected. Therefore, Anheuser orders to close the gates of the ark, without waiting for all the people to land. In the crush, a couple dozen people die, falling from a height, but Curtis and his companions manage to get inside. Adrian manages to convince the leaders of the Big 8 to let the remaining people on the arcs. Soon, Gordon dies inside the ark, which is pulled into the mechanisms of the loading gates. When the landing is already over, Yuri Karpov manages to put his son Alec on the closing gate and breaks down, throwing his brother Oleg in a jump. When the gate is closed, it is locked in a semi-open state, and at the time of the tsunami impact, the compartments near the gate in which Curtis and his companions are located are flooded and isolated from the rest of the compartments. Since the gates are not closed, the ark cannot start its engines. Following Adrian's instructions, Curtis and his son Noah release the locking mechanism underwater, and the gate closes, allowing the ark to avoid an uncontrollable collision with Mount Everest. When the flooding of the Earth stops, it turns out that, according to satellite data, the highest point of the Earth was the Dragon Mountains in southern Africa, which was not flooded. The arks are going to the Cape of Good Hope. On the 27th day of the new era, the protective shields on the decks open and people go out into the fresh air. They see a reddish sky with fiery clouds hiding the sun,